Good morning, everyone. Today is Monday. Um, Today we're learning. You know, I don't say the date because I don't remember the date is when I say I know what day of the week it is. It's the Shir Yom, but usually I don't remember what date it is. That's why I don't say the date. So I apologize. Whatever date it is, Monday. Good morning, Mr. Benny. Here we go. So today we're learning the third Perek of Yevamos. Today's shiur Seder Nashim is sponsored by the Imperial Advisory Group. They're an award-winning CFO advisory firm. Their team of CFOs averages more than 30 years of experience and works with growing businesses to provide strategic financial leadership and fractional CFO support. To learn more about them, visit their website www.imperialgrp.com. Thank you to them for sponsoring Seder Nashim. Um, today's the today's shiur is sponsored Lila Nishmas Michal Herzl Ben Aram Cohen, whose yahrzeit was yesterday, um, and for the Chassid and Kala, for the Chassid Adil Eliyahu Ben Shif Rivka, and the Kala Esther Abigail Bas Itzira, whose chasna was last night. They should be zocheh to build a Bais Nam and B'Yisrael together. And today's shiur is Lila Nishmas Rusbas Simcha Cohen Aaron Nachman Simcha Cohen Yeshua Marcha B'Shafsa Bracha Savish Shmuel Leib and B'nai Moshe Ben Yosef. May the Neshama to have an Aliyah before Shlema for Yisrael Ben Rachel Leah Rachel Bas Pesach Zelda Arvin Yitzchak Ben Risha Chai Bas David Bela before Shlema Zog Sharcha Yisrael and as a schus for Sfid Noach Ben Bracha Rachel Leah Shefer Bracha Vatzlacha all his endeavors. Okay. Yevamos Perek Gimel. Yesterday we were not after the past couple of prakim. Now we're going back into the main topic of the sector, which is yibum. Yibum that and the situations that involve and erva. We discussed that yesterday that one may not marry his wife's sister. So too, he may also not marry the sister of his zakuka. The zakuka is a woman with whom he has a yibum bond. So, for example, you have Reuven and Shimon. They're both married. Reuven dies. Shimon now has to do yibum with Reuven's wife. Okay, he cannot marry Reuven's wife's sister. That's because Reuven's wife is Shimon's Yevama. That's his zakuka, and therefore he cannot marry her sister. Okay, so Perek Gimel Mishnah Aleph starts off Arba Achin. If there were four brothers, Shnai Mehen Desuim Shtei Achayos, and two of them were married to two sisters, and Mesu and Nesum Es Achayos, and those married to the sisters died. Hooray, Elu Chotas Lo Misyabos. These sisters perform chalitzah, but may not be taken in yibum. Since both sisters now have a yibum bond with both surviving brothers, each sister is also the sister of a zakuka. The brothers are therefore forbidden to perform yibum with either one of them. Being kadmu with constituted both, and if both surviving brothers went ahead and married the sisters, they performed yibum with them without consulting Beis Din. Yotziu, they must divorce them, since these marriages were usher altogether. Eliezer says, Beishamai Amrim Yikaimu. Beishamai say that if both surviving brothers married the sisters, they may keep them, even though the marriage was originally forbidden. Beis Hillel Amrim Yotziu, but Beis Hillel says they must divorce them. Mishnah Beis Haisa Achas Mihena Surah Al Echa Isur Erva. Right? So if one of the sisters was forbidden to one of the living brothers under an erva isser, meaning that she was his mother-in-law. One of the brothers who died was married to a woman, and one of the living brothers is married to her daughter from a previous marriage. So let's say, for example, you have Reuven and Reuven and Yehuda marry two sisters, Rachel and Leah. Okay, now Shimon, who's Reuven's brother, who's not married to his sisters, Shimon marries the daughter of Reuven and Leah, which we'll call her Dinah for this purpose. Okay, now um, now Leah dies. Um, but basically, when when Reuven was married to a sister and Yehuda was married to a sister, they're married to two sisters. When Reuven and Yehuda both die, then Leah and Rachel will both fall to Levi, who is another brother, um, for yibum, but only Rachel falls to Shimon because Shimon Leah Leah does not fall to Shimon because Shimon is her son-in-law. Because Shimon married Leah's daughter Dinah, and therefore Shimon, even though he's the brother of Reuven, he's also the son-in-law of Leah, and therefore Leah cannot fall to Shimon as a yibum because he's his mother-in-law. She's her mother. She's his mother-in-law because he married her daughter. Okay. Asher ba umutter b'chos. Then he's usher to marry her, but mutter to marry to do yibum with her sister, since she has no yibum bond with the erva, but only with her sister. Shani usher b'shtein. However, the second brother is forbidden to both sisters, since he has a yibum bond with both of them. Therefore, each one is the sister of his kuka. Okay. Isser mitzvah Isser kedusha. One of the sisters was usher to one of the living brothers under the Isser due to the mitzvah to keep the dinder banan, or under the Isser due to the kedusha of the kahuna. Chalitzah lo b'sibemis. Then each sister must perform chalitzah, but not be taken in yibum. Since these isurim do not erase the yibum bond, as we learned yesterday, the the forbidden sister is still considered bound to the brothers, and therefore the other sister is also to them as the sister of Ezekuka. Mishnah Gimel, Haisa Achas Mihenas Asura Alzeh Isser Erva. One of the sisters was forbidden to this brother under Erva, under the Isser Erva. Vashnia Asura Alzeh Isser Erva, and the second sister was forbidden to that brother under an Erva, also an Erva. Asura Lazeh Muteras Lazeh. Then the sister that is ushered then the sister forbidden to this brother is mutter for yibum to that brother. V'hasura lazeh muteras lazeh, and the sister forbidden to that brother is permitted for yibum to this brother. Since each brother has a yibum bond with only one sister, he is mutter to perform yibum with her. Zu hisha. This is not okay. Let's just see this inside. Let's see the picture. Okay, so again. You have four brothers here. You have Reuven and Shimon, Levi, and Yehuda. You have four brothers. Levi's daughter is Dinah, as we said before. So she's married to Shimon. Reuven and Leah are married. Shimon is married to Leah's daughter Dinah. Okay? Rachel is married to Yehuda. And Rachel and Leah are sisters. We said that before. And Miriam, who's Rachel's daughter, is married to Levi, who's another brother. So now, Reuven and Yehuda both died. Reuven and Yehuda were both married to two sisters. They both died, and therefore Levi Levi can marry can only marry Leah. He can't marry Rachel because he's married to her daughter. Okay, but he can marry Leah, who's Miriam's aunt. And the same thing with Shimon. Shimon can only do yibum with Rachel because he's married to Leah's daughter Dinah, so he can marry Rachel, who is Dinah's aunt, but they can't marry the others. Okay, good to see the picture. This is what the Chacham said yesterday. If an Erev sister is also her sister-in-law, and both fall for even to the third brother, one of whom is an Erva, then the sister may either perform chalitzah or be taken in yibum. If two brothers marry two sisters, and both brothers die childless, and one of the widows is an Erva to the living brother, he may marry the other widow, since he has no yibum bond with the first sister. Okay, now the next four Mishnayos are going to talk about cases where there are only three brothers and two of them are married to two sisters. Here we go. Shlosha achin. If there are three brothers, Mishnah Dalet, Shnayim mehen nesu and shtei achayos. Two of them are married to two sisters. Oh, Isha uvita, or to a woman and her daughter. Oh, Isha uvaspita, or to a woman and her daughter's daughter. Oh, Isha uvaspina, or to a woman and her son's daughter. And those two brothers died childless. And the halacha is these women perform chalitzah with their main brother, but may not be taken in yibum by him. Neither of these women is an erva to the third brother, and therefore they could do yibum, but he cannot marry either of them because they're each asked to him for yibum as the sister or mother or grandmother of his zakukah. Since this Isser is not strong enough to raise the yibum bond, he must perform chalitzah with each of them. Rabbi Shimon however, patters them even from chalitzah, because in his opinion, he says that when two closely related women fall to one yavam, there's no yibum bond with either of them. So, if one of the women was ushered to him under an Isra Asher ba motor bachus, so then he is usher to marry her, but is mutter to marry her sister, since she is the only woman with whom he has even bond. Isser mitzvah o isser kedusha. However, if one of the women was usher to him under a dinder baran, with the isser to keep, because of the mitzvah to keep the dinder baran, or or it's usher in order to maintain the kedushas kain. Chalitzahs v'lo misyamas, then both women perform chalitzah, but may not be taken in yibum since he has even bond with both women. Mishnah Hey, continuing. Shlosh achad, now there are three brothers. Shnai mehen nesuin shtei achayos. Two of them married two sisters. Ve'echad mefuna, one was unmarried. Meis echad mebali achayos. The husband of one of the sisters died. But mefuna mamer, and the unmarried brother made mamer with her. Mamer, as we said yesterday, is a type of kedushin for a Yevamos. And afterward, his other brother died. The Beis Shammai say, Ishto imo, that the minor wife of the unmarried brother remains with him. But hala teitze mishum achos isha, and the other widow goes out free to marry without chalitzah on account of being his mimer wife's sister. Shammai hold that mimer is a completely effective marriage, and therefore, once the unmarried brother made mimer with the first sister, she became his full wife, and the second, and when the second sister loses her husband, she was an heir to him and was therefore free. Beis Hillel says that mimer is not completely effective as a marriage, and therefore the second sister also has a yibum bond with him, and as a result of that, Mosias Ishta beget of a chalitzah. He must send out his mimer wife with both a get under the mimer and chalitzah to remove the yibum bond with her. The Eish is achi bechalitzah, and he must send out his brother's wife, the second widow, with chalitzah to remove the yibum bond, because Beis Hillel hold that mimer is considered only a partial marriage. Therefore, it's not strong enough to prevent the second sister's yibum bond from taking effect as well. Since both sisters now have a yibum bond with him, he may not marry either of them. Therefore, he must remove his yibum bonds with both of them through chalitzah. However, since the first sister is partially married to him through mimer, he must also give her a get to free her from this partial marriage. This is about what the Chacham said. Oilo al ishto, woe to him over his wife, whom he must now divorce through no fault of his own. Oilo al eshes achi, woe to him over his brother's wife, whom he may also not marry. So I guess the short end of the stick. Mishnah Vav. So now we're talking about the case with this. Oh, wrong page. My bad. Shlosha, Mishnah Vav. Shlosha achin. There are three brothers. Shnaim and Shtei achayos. Two of them married two sisters. The echad nasoy nachris, and one was married to a stranger, someone who was not related to two sisters, just some other woman. Mes echad mebali achayos. The husband of one of the sisters died. V'kanas nasoy nachris es ishto. And the brother married to the stranger, then married his dead brother's wife as yibum, the mace, and then he too died childless. So now his two widows therefore fell for consideration to the living brother, who is married to the other sister. Harishana yotza mishum achos isha. Now the first widow, who was married to the first brother who died, goes out free to marry others chalitzah because she is his wife's sister. The shniya mishum saras, and the second wife, the stranger, is not a sister to anybody, goes out free on account of her being a co-wife, as we learned at the beginning of Masechta on Perek Aleph. Also, by Maimer, if the brother who was married to the stranger did not marry the first brother's widow, rather he made Maimer with her, mace, and then he died, leaving his full wife and his mimer wife for yibum. Nachis chalitzah lo mistibemes. The stranger performs chalitzah with the living brother, but may not be taken in yibum by him, because she is partially the co-wife of an erva. However, the wife who is a sister is free to remarry el chalitzah because she is an erva to the living brother. Next case, and there are three brothers. Two of them married to two sisters, and one who was married to a stranger. The one married to the stranger died, and the husband of one of the sisters married his wife in yibum, the mace, and then he too died, leaving his two wives for yibum. The law is that the first woman goes out free to remarry without chalitzah on account of being the sister of the living brother's wife. Shniya mishum sarasa, and the second woman goes out on account of being her co-wife. Also, but Maimar, if the second brother did not marry the stranger, rather he made only minor with her, the mace, then he died. Nachris chalitzah lo mistibemes, and the stranger must perform chalitzah with the living brother, but may not be taken, and even by him, since she is partially the co-wife of an erva. The full wife of the second brother is free to remarry a chalitzah, since she is an erva to the third brother, to sisters, his wife's sister. Mishnah Zayin, Shlosha Achin, still on the three brothers. Shlosha Achin, there are three brothers. Shnayim mehen the students, two of them married to two sisters. And one was married to another lady who was not related, to a stranger. The mace, the husband of one of the sisters died. As Ishto, and the one married to the one married to the stranger married his dead brother's wife in yibum. The mace Ishto Sheni. Then the wife of the other brother, the second sister, died. Afterward, the brother married to the stranger died, leaving his two wives to the third brother. Arezu Asura Alav Olamis. The law is, the halacha is that this woman, the first brother's widow, is usher to the living brother forever. Because she was usher to him at one time when the first husband died. However, having been usher for yibum the first time she became a widow, she is now viewed as though she were a widow of her brother who died with children, who is an heir to the living brother forever. Therefore, although the sister who made her usher to the living brother had already died, he may still not marry her in yibum. Now, another case, and there are three brothers. Two of them married to two sisters, and one was married to a stranger, not a sister. The husband of one of the sisters divorced his wife, and the brother married to the stranger, then died. The stranger the stranger thus fell to the two remaining brothers for yibum. The brother who divorced his wife married her in yibum, the mace, and then he too died, so that only the stranger falls to the third brother for yibum. The Zuhi Sha'amru, this case is an example for what the Chacham said in Perek Aleph. The Chulan Shemesu and Iskarshu, that when all the ervas listed in Perek Aleph, if they died or were divorced before their husband died, so say with taros, their co-wives are permitted to the living brother. Meaning, the living brother may perform even with the stranger, with the wife who's not related to anybody. Although she was once the wife of the brother married to the other sister, they were not co-wives at the time she fell for yibum. Therefore, she is not considered the co-wife of an erva in this situation. Oh boy, fun stuff. Okay, if you want to go, Mishnah Ches with Hulan Shahad. We finished discussing the cases of three brothers. Now we're moving on. We're 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 about to move on to cases where three brothers married to three unrelated women. But before we do so, we're going to talk about a general rule about even situations that involve an erva. This is Mishnah Ches. Now we go on to three brothers marrying three unrelated women. So v'chulan shechaya behen kiddushin or girushin b'savik. With all 15 eras listed at the and Perek Aleph Mishnah Aleph, the brother who died had made only a questionable kiddushin with the erva, or had given her a questionable divorce. Hare elut saros choltos lomis yamos. If the husband dies without children, the co-wives of the erva must perform chalitzah with the living brother. It may not be taken even by him, because we're not sure whether the erva was truly married to the deceased brother at the time he died. If she was married to him, she patters her co-wife from chalitzah and yibum, and the co-wife is also to marry his brother. If the erva was not married to him at the time he died, then her co-wife acquires either chalitzah or yibum. To resolve this doubt, she must perform chalitzah but not yibum. Case at Safek Kiddushin. What is the case of questionable Kiddushin? Zarek La Kiddushin. A man and a woman were standing precisely 8 amos away from each other in a public area, and he threw her an object of value in order to make Kiddushin. Safek Karavla, Lo Safek Karavla. And there is a question whether it landed closer to him, in which case the Kiddushin did not take effect, or whether it landed closer to her, which case the Kiddushin did take effect. Zeo Safek Kiddushin. This is the case of questionable Kiddushin. Safek Gerish, and what is the case of questionable divorce? There are three such cases. Kasa B'Ksav Yadav Ve'en Edim. The husband wrote the get in his own handwriting, but there are no witnesses signed on it. Or Yesh Alav Edim Ve'en Bo Zman. There are witnesses who signed on it but has no date. Yesh Bo Zman Ve'en Bo Echa, or it has a date but has only one witness. Zeh is Safek Gerish, and this is the list of cases of questionable divorce. 2 more to go. Now, going to the topic of 3 brothers that married 3 women who are not sisters. They're not related. Shlosha Achin Nisu and Shalosh Nachrias. There are 3 brothers married to 3 unrelated women. And one of the brothers died. The second brother made Maimon with the widow, thus making a partial marriage with her with a mace. And he then died, leaving 2 widows, one to which he had been fully married, and the second to whom he had been partially married through Maimon. Both these widows must perform chalitzah with the living brother, but he may not be taken in yibum. Shnamar, as it says in Devarim in Kiseitze, the mace echa mehem Yevamos yavo aleha, and one of them dies, the Yevamos shall come to her. Shaleh zikas yavam echad, which teaches that yibum is performed only with a widow who has on her a yibum bond for 1 yavam. V'lo shaleh zikas shnei yavamim, and not with a widow who has on her yibum bond from 2 yavams. So what does this mean? Since the minor wife was never fully married to the second brother, she still has her yibum bond from the first brother. But since she was partially married to the second brother, she has a yibum bond from him as well. As a result, she is the Yevama who is bound to the third brother with yibum bonds from 2 of his brothers. She is therefore not eligible for yibum and needs chalitzah instead. However, her chalitzah cannot exempt her co-wife, as she is only partially her co-wife. Therefore, her co-wife needs chalitzah as well. Rabbi Shimon says, Yah ben shiur said the living brother can perform yibum with whichever widow he wishes, the chalitz, the shnia, and then perform chalitza with the other one. According to Rabbi Shimon, Maimer surely does not make a partial marriage. However, he is unsure whether it creates a full marriage or not at all. If it creates a full marriage, then the second brother who was fully married to both widows, and the third brother can perform yibum with one and thereby free the other. If it does not make any marriage at all, then each brother was married to each widow. Then each brother was married to one widow, so the brother can perform yibum with both widows. Either way, he may perform yibum with one of the widows. The other one needs chalitzah. Okay. Moving on to the next case in the Mishnah, where 2 brothers married 2 sisters. There are 2 brothers married to 2 sisters. So and one of the brothers died. And afterward, the wife of the second brother died. The widow of the first brother is also to the second brother forever, despite the fact that she is no longer ever to him, on account of being his wife's sister. Because she became also to him for yibum at one time, because um, she became eligible for yibum at the moment that her husband died. Since at that point the second brother could not marry her, she is the same as a woman whose husband died with children, who is an heir to the living brothers forever. And Mishnah Yud, the last Mishnah for today. Shnayim shikachu shtei nashim, two men betrothed two women who were not related to each other. Each man betrothed one of them. B'shas kirisas on the chuppah ichlifu es shalzeh lazeh. At the time they entered the chuppah to complete their marriage, they accidentally switched this one's wife for that one's wife. And that one's wife for this one's wife, and they each had basically lived with the wrong woman. The halach is that they're both chayav chatas for having lived with a married woman. How that's a problem. How you, since they each lived with another man's wife, they have each mistakenly committed adultery. Rayas. So then all four of them must atone for the shogeg by bringing a chatas in the Beis Hamikdash. Both the men and the women, they have to bring a korban chatas. How you achil? If the men were brothers, then they are also chayav to another chatas of living with a brother's wife. The aim hayu achayos. If the women were sisters, mishum isha elachos, and then they have to bring a third chatas for living with a wife and her sister while she's married to her sister. The aim hayu nidos. If the women were nidos, mishum nida, they are all chayav a fourth chatas for living with a nida. So that's a four-way chatas for really bad mistake. And before the women return to the two husbands, we have to separate them for 3 months. Shema because perhaps they're pregnant from the men who they mistakenly lived with, and if they are, then the child is a mamzer who may not marry Jews of proper lineage. Once the three months have passed, you can tell whether they are pregnant or not. If the women were young girls who are not yet capable of having children, which was less than 12 years old, son, you return them to their husbands immediately. Okay, in Hayuk Kohanos, Nifsalim Chuma. And if the women were daughters of Kohanim, they become disqualified from eating Chuma, even if their husbands died without their having a child, since they lived with someone else who's an heir to them, even though it was by accident, they become disqualified from eating Chuma and certainly from Kachim or anything with Kedusha. What a Perek. Okay, see you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow for Perek Dalit. Have a wonderful day. Let's see.